Actually, in Thailand, some of our coaches, our foreign coaches, are saving more money than possibly they would even be earning in the US or the UK. But here you can really earn decent money. Cost of living can be very low. So yeah, certainly opportunities in the industry for gyms to open as well. And I would say that's the case all across Asia. You know, it's a developing market.
Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and we're on episode number 126. I have the supreme pleasure of talking to Jack Thomas. So Jack is a fellow podcaster. He has the Fitness Business Asia podcast. And what was fun about this, he's also a multi-gym owner. Base is out of originally Thailand, and he's now expanding throughout Asia. I do believe they won the best gym of 2018 for Thailand, so that's kind of cool. I was also part of his podcast, got to be interviewed on there on Fitness Business Asia. And during this interview, it's different because I interview him, he interviews me, and we swap somewhere in the middle. So it was fun. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it. And Jack's a great guy. He has a lot to offer, and just hearing what's going on in Asia and the opportunities over there is really eye-opening. And there's a ton of potential, and you know how the cultures change and where they're at compared to how we are over here in the West. It's just a really interesting point of view. So before we get into the interview, I just want to plug a review. So Experience-RX says, Future of Fitness is my favorite fitness podcast. Eric covers a wide range of topics and connects each guest with intelligence, curiosity, and humor. He brings out their stories, struggles, and successes in a way we can learn from and empathize with, both personally and professionally. These are great conversations. Thank you, Experience-RX. I really appreciate it. And if you want to get a review read on air, it's pretty simple. Go to iTunes, subscribe to what we're doing here, leave me a nice review. I will get notified, and I will read it on air. Just that simple. And it goes a long way. I really, really, really appreciate it. So lastly, before we get on to the interview with Jack, this episode is brought to you by CertifiedCourseCreation.com. And, if you've been doing this game for a while in the fitness, health, and wellness space, and you have a very, very solid, specific knowledge that solves a specific problem, and you've seen a lot of success with it, and you're ready to get that knowledge out there and also stop trading your time for money. So going from essentially a B2C model to a B2B and start being a leader more than you are now, then this is probably a very, very worthwhile step. Now, we are very selective with the partners that we work with. So I would love the opportunity to talk to you first. So go to CertifiedCourseCreation.com. There's an application. You can find a place to book a call, or you can just reach out to me individually. I'm everywhere. You can find me. It's not hard to find me. So do it. It's makes a lot of sense. And we're looking for great partners, not a lot of partners, just a few great partners to build this thing out and make it something very, very special and unique within the market. So go check it out, CertifiedCourseCreation.com. This could be your next big step, and I would love to talk to you all about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is episode number 126 with Jack Thomas of the Fitness Business Asia podcast and Base Gyms in Asia. Enjoy the show. And we are live. I have Jack Thomas all the way from Central Bangkok, man. Welcome to the show. We have a little bit of a different format today, which people will hopefully like.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. That's pretty cool. So you, I'll let you explain more about what you do out there in Asia and especially Bangkok. But for people listening today, this is going to be kind of fun. So Jack is also a podcast host, right? And we'll get into that much more. So we're going to split the interview. You guys are going to get a 2-for-1 deal today. Listening to
That's right.
So I'm going to start because I like to have control of things. So we'll start interviewing.
That's okay. You go ahead.
So give us your story, man. Give us a little of your background, kind of how you end up where you are.
Yeah, I always try and give the quick version of this because it could quite easily last a few hours. But unbelievably, I've been here almost 15 years. And I remember when I first came and I met people who'd been here 5 or 10 years in Bangkok, I was like, that is insane. How can you be in Asia for that long? Yeah. 15 years later, I'm still here, which is crazy. Again, give you the very quick version. So I came here traveling, backpacking. did some English teaching just for the experience for about a year, and then decided maybe it was time to go home. Went home, realized that wasn't the case. And I'd actually had an idea to do a clothing export business. I'd seen some really cool local brands, which I thought would do well in the UK. So I came back to Thailand, set that up, had a great 3 years working with a friend of mine in the UK, kind of a small operation, but it was a good, strong, successful business. So I learned some of the foundations of what it meant to run a business and kind of like ignited that entrepreneurial spark, you could say. And then it took a bit of a downturn around 2008, 2009 in line with the global economic crisis. So I was at a bit of a crossroads, didn't know what to do, and saw an opportunity in the fitness industry here. I was going to some of the chain gyms, seeing, to be honest, the poor standard of personal training. Knew a couple of coaches who were good, who were doing well, and just saw an opportunity. Turns out 8 years later, I was right. It was the beginning of the fitness industry really developing and growing and turning into something quite special. Well, I probably got in about 2 or 3 years before that really started to happen. So I think for me, it was great timing. Started working for a small studio, which became a bigger studio. And then I went from coach to fitness manager to managing director, running that company on my own. My boss was living abroad at the time. And then about 3 years ago, I left to set up Base. So we've been operating for about 2.5 years. We've gone from 4 coaches to 23. We've got 3 branches now. We have a strong, healthy business in Asia. We're looking for expansion opportunities, perhaps in the region. And it's just been, it's been an incredible journey in the fitness industry. I'm very, very happy that I made that decision. Very happy in the way that the global economic crisis happened to me. Obviously not good for a lot of people overall, but to me, it sent me on my path, which was into the fitness industry. So very happy with where I'm at. Very excited. Every day's a challenge, but I'm loving it.
Yeah, awesome, man. So what's the name of the chain of gyms that you have now, or facilities?
The studio is called Base.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's called Base.
Anything, or?
The reason we called it, our tagline is build your base. So we believe that all clients should build a strong foundation. There was a few other things that we were looking for, and we've named the gym. One was a word that Thai people could say. And Base ticked that box. I wanted something strong. I wanted something powerful. Yeah. For me, I like the idea of Base almost being like your home. It's the place that you go to, you know. I'm going back to Base, and that kind of felt strong for me. So it ticked a lot of boxes. So yeah, we went with that one. It was a long process to get to that name, but that's what it means to us.
Cool. And where are the locations?
So we have one in the main residential area of Bangkok called Thong Lo. Then we opened one in the business district a year later. And then, which is about 5-6 kilometers away from our first one. And then our third location, which we opened a few months ago, kind of bridges the two. So in between the middle. So we've pretty much got central Bangkok covered now, I would say. We've got the main areas of Bangkok. So I'm not sure if Bangkok can handle another base. We shall find out. No plans for that. But internationally, I do see opportunities in the region in Asia.
Yeah, well, Bangkok's huge, right? Like how many people are in Bangkok?
It is huge. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very big city. There's about 10 million people. I mean, that was a while ago. It's probably 12 million or so now. But the areas that can have, a boutique fitness training studio, somewhere that's charging premium prices is fairly small. If you compare that to, say, pretty much anywhere in the US, where even people in the outskirts, maybe even more so in the suburbs, will be able to pay what we offer. Not so much in Bangkok. You're pretty much restricted to central Bangkok. And as soon as you start to go out, less people can afford the sort of premium gyms. But we are seeing more 24/7 gyms, cheaper offerings springing up in all corners of the city.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, boutique gym, everyone's kind of got a different definition of it, but the general idea is the same. What is a client experience like for you guys? What type of training do you do? Is it a class format? Give us some more details on it.
Yeah, so we offer group class and personal training. I would call it sort of boutique premium offering. We don't have any kind of open gym or anything like that, so nobody can come in and do their own workout. I mean, you sort of say the word experience. We talked about this on a podcast I did recently a lot. Someone was telling me it's quite sort of a buzzword in the US. It's being thrown around a lot and used a lot. I'm a massive believer in creating a client experience. And I think when you charge a lot more than the 24/7 gyms, a lot more than the chain gyms, people need to get something for what they're paying, which for me is the experience. So we are just sort of huge on that and just crafting that from the very first moment they engage with your gym or your studio, which usually is online. They usually hear about you and they usually visit your Instagram page. Certainly in Thailand, That's the usual route that they would go. So you need to make sure that you're representing your business in the best possible way there. Then they would come to your studio. So as they're walking up to base, for example, we have a big neon sign. We have our tagline on the wall, build your base. As you come in the door, we have good music. We've invested a lot into a good sound system. The front desk are trained to greet you in the right way. You get a workout towel, which isn't that common in Asia. Everything is branded. We've given a lot of thought and attention to every single detail in the gym. We've invested a lot into our bathrooms. Again, that's not something that's done massively in the boutique space here in Asia. And then the class, we invest so much into our coaches and so much into the process to create a great group class experience for the client. And that means connecting with the client before they start the class, having a chat with them afterwards. And we want them to leave thinking, wow, what just happened? Really blow them away from the very start to the very finish. So we put a lot of work in. We had to work on the culture and the values of the company to make sure that everyone understands the importance of that and really buys into that. But experience is kind of everything about what we do, really. If they're not getting experience, if it's not different enough to the cheaper offerings, of which there are many now in Bangkok that offer, free group classes and everything else along with it. If we're not creating something which really makes us stand out from that, we're not going to have a successful studio. It's as simple as that. So as you can see, I'm big on experience.
Yeah, well, it's huge, ultimately, because I know some of the questions you have for me later, but the big thing is, are you giving your clients the best hour of their day? And if you are, then, it's, you're on to something, right? They should look forward to it, feel great when they leave. But it also should be consistent, right? And that's
absolutely
a big part of it too.
It's part of our mission. The hour they spend at base should be the highlight of our client's day. That's part of the mission. And I think that's the way it should be. I think it's beautiful the way the industry has gone, because 15 years ago, I didn't hear anybody saying that. It's pretty much that hour that I don't want to do, but I need to do. And it was a chore. And that was training for me for so long. And I just love the way it's gone now, that it's something that people are excited about. It's something that people want to do. I love that. And I love the way the industry's gone. And I think it will continue to go that way.
Yeah. Jack, I'm curious, man, is there any, when you're building out, the experience, is there any cultural differences that may be surprising to us in the West that you have to be aware of? Little things that maybe if I was going to go over there and open a facility, I'm sure I'm very unaware of the culture. I wouldn't be maybe respectful of things that I didn't know of, or maybe I would do things that would be offensive. Is there anything like that comes to mind? Just, I'm curious.
In terms of the clients and their expectations, I would say not so much. They're in central Bangkok. They're fairly open to sort of Western ideas. We do have a lot of Western coaches. We have 7 or 8 Western coaches, or foreign coaches. Let's say some from Korea, Australia, from the US. So from everywhere, really. From obviously from the UK as well, such as myself. So in terms of the actual class experience, not so much. In terms of crafting the experience, in terms of the Thai staff who are involved with that, I would say very much so, in terms of how they interact with clients, and then certainly how they are managed, I would say is very different. You have to consider sort of Asian values, such as saving face, the way that issues are addressed. I think typically I would say, you can be less direct here with staff than you can in the UK. So that really sort of changes how having been here 15 years, I have quite a good understanding of Thai culture and what's acceptable and what's not, and the ways to sort of connect with them and the ways to inspire them and develop a strong working relationship. So in terms of the staff playing their part in crafting the experience, I would say, it's very important. But in terms of that end product, the group class, not so much, I don't think. I think if you can create something and this was our original goal actually, was to create a studio that would thrive even in New York, even in LA, even in Sydney, London, the top international fitness cities of the world. I wanted to create something that would stand out there even. And then if we could do that, then we would smash it in Asia. And, there wasn't really much in terms of the group class and the type of offering we offer that really differs much to the West, I think.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Yeah. It's funny that, out here, especially in the United States, we're so dictated by media, right? And they're so quick to point out the differences in culture and, how we're so different. We're so different. Be scared, right? And, meanwhile, every time I travel, I'm like, people are just like me. Right? There's every once in a while you get surprised by a cultural difference or something, like maybe a hand gesture you shouldn't use in one country, but it's okay here. You know what I mean? But it's fascinating. It's cool to hear that. It hasn't been too much, but of course you've been 15 years, so you've been in there pretty deep. What about the environment from a business standpoint? Like finding a place to lease. Do you own a place? Like how are landlords good? Is it government come in and regulate? Like what's that experience like from a business side?
Yeah, so we don't own the premises. We do have leases. That's where my business partners have come in very, very handy. So I have 4 Thai business partners that I work with, and one is not very active, 2 are a little bit active and have to bring some people to the studio, and then 1 is a lot more active. So the one that's more active has helped a lot in that regards. And I think if you're going to do business in Asia, having a strong local partner that understands the landscape more and has a strong network, I think is pivotal. So that's definitely helped with that. Honestly, doing it on my own would have been a lot harder. Just an example, we had, some issues with delays in construction with our first location, which was a really difficult time, in many ways, financially, emotionally, everything else, just getting that first one built out. We had staff waiting to start and everything else. And I think without my business partner, who was basically negotiating with the contractor, negotiating a deal because it had taken so long to finish the studio, that would have been really difficult, I think, for me. Just, again, culturally, this is an area that I wouldn't have understood as much. Managing Thai staff or training up a front desk member of staff, I would feel quite comfortable with. But kind of like a business dispute or something like that, with a Thai contractor or a partner that we're working with, I think would have been a lot harder to negotiate. So I pretty much left that to him, and he did a great job and kind of sailed us through that potentially difficult time. I think in Thailand we have an advantage that what we do is valued. So a lot of landlords or premises, they actually want us there. We get approached a lot of a new mall that's opening up, a new co-working space, which is our second one, and they wanted like a fitness operator there, and they really want us in there. They see the value of what we bring, and that's partly what we've built, a reputation of our brand that's helped us get there, but also just sort of premium boutique fitness is, it's big now, it's sort of trendy here, so that enables us to sort of negotiate a good deal. Now I've heard and that's, maybe a little bit unique to the fact that we sort of carved out a strong position in the market here. From what I hear from friends in Hong Kong, it's not really like that. A landlord is a landlord and they want their money and that's it.
Yeah, sure.
So it makes it a lot harder, actually. Rent is typically higher. We've been able to get good deals based on the back of who we are and what we bring. So that's cool to see that happening in Thailand. I've heard, Singapore's the same. I've spoken to a couple of operators there that have had good deals offered to them because they value a boutique space being there. So that's great. I'd be interested to know if in the US that happens much.
Rarely. My experience, was I was just another business and, I had to pay the rent. And if not, they're just worried about their numbers. And so it became it became tough. And I can't remember if I was talking to you, Jack, or maybe it was it might have been Natalie Dow out of Singapore, but the availability of talent as far as trainers and coaches, how is that over there? Because I think it was her. I think it was Natalie saying that it's tough. Like they need talent, right?
It's improved a lot. Even in the last 3 years, I would say it's changed since we opened base. But if I look at the sort of 8 years that I've been in boutique fitness here, I would say at the beginning, very difficult. Very few Thais really wanted to do this. It was kind of before it really took off here. So it wasn't really seen as a full career. And I hear this to be a real problem in Asia. In Thailand, it's slowly starting to change. In Singapore, slowly, but it's still not seen as a very good job. So your best quality talent won't, their parents likely won't really agree with it. And we do see that. So actually some of our Thai coaches who are fantastic, they kind of had to go against the wishes of their parents.
Wow.
To get a more traditional job and to become an instructor. It's just sort of seen by many here as like another service job.
Okay.
But that is changing. And I think a big part of that is developing your staff. I think is just, is huge, and showing them that it's an actual career, and also just paying well. Like some of our young Thai coaches are earning far more than they would earn in like a traditional role. So, we charge pretty much Western rates, and we pretty much pay Western rates as well. So some of our guys are earning a lot of money. So I know now some of their parents are like, oh, okay, well, maybe there is something to this. Maybe there is a potential career here. I have a couple of friends in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and it's a younger industry there. And they're trying to do the same thing. One's a spin studio, one's kind of like a boot camp style operation. And they're trying to change the industry by paying more and by showing people it's an actual job. And they're kind of in it together. They're sort of helping each other out, and they're trying to build up an industry there. And they actually want more competition. They want more people doing what they're doing. So people start to see it as a real job, and it actually starts to build the industry there, which everyone benefits from. So I think, that's a barrier that we have here, I think, but it is changing. So in the last 3 years or so, we've seen more Thais that have given up sort of, more traditional jobs, ones that would be viewed as sort of perhaps better careers, to come into fitness and to do something they enjoy. And I think in the last sort of 2-3 years, we've had quite a few Thai members of staff come over from more traditional roles. Again, I feel like I can't really speak for the industry here, because now that we've sort of cemented our place as one of the top studios here, we get a ton of applications. So recruiting is never easy. Getting good staff is never easy. But we are in a fairly fortunate position, I think, where we get quite a few good, strong, solid applications. I'm not sure if that's quite the case for all of the gyms here. So I would hope that, people start to see it as a real job. Employers start to treat their employees in the right way and build up a proper career for them in this industry. And I think then we will continue to see this shift of like, okay, there's actually opportunities here. And every Thai member of staff that comes in, some of them may be a little bit wary about the career change that they're making. I still look, there's a huge opportunity here in fitness in Asia. There's so many different directions your career could go in. We're expanding. If you want to get into management, if you want to get into specialist coaching, if you want like a marketing role in our gym or anything else that might come up, there are massive opportunities. If we end up expanding abroad, if you wanted to go and help set up locations abroad, there'll be opportunities there. So don't think that this is like not a good job and this is not a career. I think, the more employers that start to view it in that way, the more I think the industry will develop in Asia.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And I'm also kind of thinking on behalf of like our listeners, if someone's like, you know what, I want to move to Asia, right? I want to be a fitness professional over there. I've done, 5-10 years here in the States. Maybe it's time for me to go over there. I'm just wondering if there's opportunity for good, professional fitness coaches to make a living and make a lifestyle, or make a life in general over in Asia.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's certainly opportunities here. I mean, if it was for a coach to come over, then absolutely. And please do get in touch, because we're always looking for superstar foreign coaches. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, actually in Thailand, some of our foreign coaches are saving more money than possibly they would even be earning in the US or the UK. It's a very competitive market in the UK. As a personal trainer in central London, it's going to be pretty hard to earn good money and have disposable income. But here you can really earn decent money. Cost of living can be very low. It can be expensive as well in certain areas, but it's pretty low overall, and you can live on next to nothing, and you can earn good money. So yeah, certainly opportunities in the industry for gyms to open as well. And I would say that's the case all across Asia. It's a developing market. If you look at the UK, it's a lot more developed. There is a lot happening, but it's a lot more developed, but it's very much developing here. There's huge opportunities, I think, in many different areas. And we're really seeing that, especially over the last few years with so many different offerings opening up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. It sounds like a great place to be. And so you started a podcast too. Tell me why,
that's right.
What was your impetus for that? Why did you want to do that? Why would you want to do something crazy like that?
I know, yeah, right. I want to add all of that work. So I committed recently to doing one every week, and that's been really good actually. It's kind of given me some accountability and put the pressure on to sort of get one out every week. It's been great fun. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure you have as well, Eric. Despite what you say, I'm sure at the time it's been a great thing.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
Sometimes I'm like, I don't really feel like doing it now, but once you sort of get going and you start writing, the points that you want to go through in your next podcast, and obviously any interview you do is always great fun. I started listening to podcasts about a year and a half ago. I was doing a lot of traveling around the city when we opened up our first branch, and I was listening to a lot of music. I just kind of listened to so much music at work as well. I just got kind of bored and wanted to do something a bit more productive. So just started listening to podcasts, haven't done so for a few years, and just started getting so much value. I was traveling around the city for like an hour and a half. So I'd literally be listening to an hour and a half every day at 1.5 speed. So maybe 2 hours of podcasts every day. And it was just giving me so much value. And I was connecting with all of these people really sort of connecting with what they said, really learning a lot. And then I decided to start my own for a few different reasons. One was, as we were growing the company, to connect with the staff. As we grew, I thought it'd be a good way to sort of still keep connected with them, even if we sort of expanded abroad. I thought that would be a good opportunity for them to still listen in and to still learn. We'd had some coaches that asked about the business side. And I thought, rather than sit down with them and go through the business side, which I thought would be quite a difficult, laborious process with many different members of staff, I was like, why don't I just put out all of the information that I know, like a brief on it. Yeah. And if they want to learn more, just let me know, hit me up, let's go for a coffee, and I'll be happy to talk in depth about anything that you're particularly interested in. And it's a good way of sort of filtering out actually the ones that are like, oh, I would like to learn about business, but just don't really want to put any effort in. And the ones that are like, yeah, I want to learn about business, and really do, because they would listen, they would ask, and they have done, and we've gone through it. And that's, that's been great. Just personal development, it was, my public speaking has improved a lot, certainly since when I was younger. And I used to get so nervous about standing up in front of anyone and talking. So it's definitely helped to improve that. It was kind of odd sitting on my own at home with a microphone. It took a bit of getting used to. But now I feel much more, I'm sure you can relate as well. But I feel much more comfortable with the process now to connect with people, such as yourself. I'm not sure if we would have connected if it wasn't for our podcast. So that's been awesome. Made friends from all around the world, and especially in the region as well, of course. I've interviewed some great people in Southeast Asia. So that's been awesome. And then also, as we expand and grow as a business, I thought it was a good way to get myself out there, to get Base out there. As we expand, it would help to position us as people that know what we're talking about in the region in Asia. So yeah, I'm really, really happy that I've done it. Really happy that I'm in this rhythm now of putting out one every week. And yeah, it's just been great. So if anyone's thinking about doing it, I would certainly recommend it.
Yeah, me too, man. With that, I'll hand it over to you. So what is the name of your podcast?
Podcast is the Fitness Business Asia podcast. So much of the information we put out is applicable to anyone in the industry, to be honest with you. I talk a lot about PR, marketing, branding, running a team, building culture, all of that kind of stuff, building an experience, such as how we talked about today. But there are Asia-focused topics. So we talk about the market here specifically. If I interview someone from Hong Kong, let's say, I would obviously go deep into what's happening in Hong Kong, what are the trends there, what can we expect next. So wherever anyone is in the world, I would say give it a listen, see if it's for you. But certainly if you're based in Asia, there'll be a lot of great, relevant information for you. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to hand the controls over to you, man. It's your...
Cool. Thank you, Eric. It's been a pleasure. Really nice to connect with you. And it's always a pleasure to talk about the fitness business and what's going on in Asia as well. So thank you, mate.
Yeah, right on.
Cheers. Nice one. Eric, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the Fitness Business Asia podcast. Thank you very much for joining us all the way from the West Coast, right?
Well, originally from the West Coast, yeah, man. But I currently live in Northwest Montana, which probably a lot of people out in Asia may not know where that is, and a lot of people in the States actually don't know where that is. So it's
okay. So certainly people from Asia might not.
Yeah. It's we're up in the mountains in the Rockies, about 45 minutes south of the Canadian border. It's beautiful up there.
Okay, and you made a conscious decision to sort of move away from the city and spend more time in natural surroundings. Is that right?
Yeah. So my background essentially is, I was born and raised in Northern California, and actually in the Silicon Valley before it was really the Silicon Valley. And so went to college out east and in Boston. And when I came back, I got kind of the normal corporate job, right? Started doing sales, marketing, promotions, and I did various forms of that for about 10 years. So all of my 20s. And I started looking at the track I was on of like, okay, if I stay on this track, what is my life going to look like in 10 years? And I didn't particularly like it. Right. And, randomly at a point, right when I turned 30, I got a text message from an old college teammate. His name is Trevor Boehm. And he said, "Hey man, do you want to open a gym?" And I was like, it was actually happy hour in San Francisco. I was living there and I was like, what? That's weird. And, so I stopped and then I had a beer and then I texted him back. And this was back when texting was like not what it is now. So it was like 332221111, right?
Right.
I was like,
our younger listeners might not be able to relate.
Yeah, some of the younger listeners will be like, what is he talking about? And I was like, yeah, I do. And so we met, a couple of weeks later and started the whole process of affiliating for a CrossFit gym. We picked a location of where we want to go within a few.
Just give us some perspective. How long ago was this, sorry?
So that was 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, right before the big drop. And so that, right around that time, we formulated the business. I packed up all my earthly belongings in my car and I drove down to Santa Barbara, California, which is a beautiful location. They just didn't have a designated CrossFit gym there yet. And I never really been to the city, didn't really know anybody, but we found a small location. It was about 800 square feet. I don't know what that is for meters for people listening in metric, but small. It was small, basically, was the point. And started tearing out.
And CrossFit was just kind of growing then, right?
Yeah. So it was. Yeah, it was big. I mean, 2008 was a terrible time to start a business, right? As you probably remember. And so we had to bootstrap everything. It was kind of personal funds, got a small loan from my dad, just enough to keep it going. And it just, CrossFit was very slow around that time. 2008, 2009, 2010, it started to get a little bit more popular, right? And then it started to just hockey stick, growth, really fast growth, 2010 through 2014. And at that point, we just started expanding, got a new location, blew out a wall in that location, and just continued to grow the business until when I decided to, for many reasons, personal and professional, to sell in 2017. And successfully sold it. And my wife and I decided that we wanted to see more, do more. And, nothing wrong with Santa Barbara. It's an amazing place, but we want to see some mountain towns. And since that point, it's been almost a year and a half, which is shocking to me. We've lived in about 7 or 8 different places all around Western North America and, through Canada and back. And it's just been a really cool adventure. And from a professional standpoint, I have a couple podcasts, which we, just kind of an interview. Started a company this year called Certified Course Creation, where we help people who have a lot of knowledge and specialization within the fitness and health and wellness industry to create online certification courses. So we do that. I'm starting a business mentor program or company with a couple of colleagues of mine who've been in the industry for, collectively we've been in the industry for like 40 years. And then I have a small high-end networking group for fitness entrepreneurs, people who are essentially B2B, online or tech. And it's cool. I'm really excited about where I am. Just like you, I kind of started a podcast and then I started another one. First one was called Future of Fitness. Second one is the Fitness Blitz Radio. And over about a year and a half, not even about a year, I've interviewed about 450 people from all over the world.
Wow.
Within our fitness industry. So it's given me a pretty wide breadth of exactly like what's going on, who's doing what. And it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, man, it's a little bit of my journey. It's been awesome.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like your environment now is very different to the one that I'm in, but certainly sounds like a great place to be. I just want to delve a little bit more into your CrossFit background.
Sure.
I just ask why you decided in 2008 to open a CrossFit and not to do your own thing.
Yeah, so I started CrossFit in 2008. I started at a gym, Chris Lalane Fitness. So Chris Lalane, who was the founder, and his wife, it was actually Jack Lalane's grandnephew. If people know who that is, he's like him and Arnold Schwarzenegger, essentially, who created modern day fitness and the popularity thereof. So I was in his gym and I was training and I was quite enjoying it. It really brought me back to my college athletic days where I felt like I was training with the team. I was training really hard. I also saw significant growth in his gym. I mean, he was in downtown San Francisco. This thing went from 0 to 150 clients in a matter of like 6 months. And, I looked at the systems and saw what was going on. I'm like, I can do this. I can build this out. And so when Traver, that seed already kind of in my head. And so when Traver asked me about it, I'm like, it sounds like a really cool job, is doing CrossFit. And I just love the modality of it. Whatever people may say, there's plenty of critics out there of CrossFit, but I do believe is one of the best training methodologies when applied correctly.
What do you put its success down to? Is it that what you just mentioned, or are there other aspects that really play a part in?
I guess you have to look. Yeah, I guess you have to look at it from two different perspectives. One would be the training itself, right? I think when it originally came out, and what Greg Glassman, the founder, did, at CrossFit.com, is he gave it all away for free. He put all of his information. He wrote in the CrossFit Journal. It was just an incredible amount of information that he just gave away. And so really people started to grab a hold of it, and it revolutionized the way that people train. The whole functional fitness thing started really its popularity with CrossFit. So, but the funny thing about it, it was actually meant to be done in a private setting, one-on-one. It wasn't supposed to be done in group. At some point, someone started doing group classes. And I think maybe it was Craig out of CrossFit Vancouver, or maybe it was Andy out of CrossFit LA. I don't know, but it was one of these early on, really super, super early adopters. And then the community thing started happening, right? And if anyone has ever been in a CrossFit gym, if there's one thing it's really famous for, no one can argue with that, is how it built community within a gym, within a local area. And I think that was the biggest thing. Was it was different. It built community. It drove results, right? And it was sticky. People really liked it. It wasn't something that you would just join. You do a couple sessions with a personal trainer, or maybe, you get on a spin bike and, you sweat, but it became part of someone's life. And it got to that point where, the old joke is, you'll know if somebody does CrossFit because they won't shut up about it. Right. And that's a good thing, is when people start defining themselves as, what do you do? I'm a CrossFitter. Right. That's when you got something special. And I think that was kind of the groundswell, that culture of CrossFit is really what made it grow quickly. Because, for about 4 years, man, I didn't do any marketing. None. Zero. Right. Maybe I hit the road and I talked to different business owners, invited them in for free trials. But once that thing started growing, there was no advertising. It was unnecessary,
Wow. So 2010, around about then, was when it really exploded.
Yeah. I think that's really when it started to pick up quickly. And then it had
Do you put that growth down to just that tipping point of, this community is getting bigger and more people are talking about it, more and more people are proud to do CrossFit and want to tell people, and then it just reached this tipping point and it just exploded? Do you think what caused that in 2010?
I think so. Yeah, I do believe that. I think that, there's, we look at the growth of anything, there's a very early adopters, right, who are willing to try anything, kind of test anything new. And then you kind of get that second phase of people, and they're the loudmouths, right? They're the ones who won't stop talking about it. And once it kind of hit that phase, then it just became something really unstoppable. I think the only reason that maybe, and I'm sure you'll get to this question too, that maybe it's slowed down a little bit. I think 2015 or 16 was the first year where they actually closed more affiliates than opened, was due to a lack of business systems.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit about what CrossFit offers a affiliate? That's the correct terminology, right? Affiliate. You wouldn't call it a franchise.
Yeah, no, it's an affiliate. So I signed up, for my affiliation in 2008, I believe, and I paid $1,000, right? And I continued, I was grandfathered in, so we paid $1,000 per year, every year.
It's pretty cheap.
It's really cheap. Yeah. But you don't get much more than that. You get the right to use the name.
Okay.
And that's really about it. You do get, like, I guess, I don't know, it never worked to my benefit, but they would say you get access to the attorneys. You're paying for their attorneys who protect the brand. So other than that, that's it. You get to use the name, you get to put it on your door.
Okay, so maybe not so cheap then.
Yeah.
But then, you still have that brand, obviously, and, people would still start to recognize that around the world. Okay, so if you compare it to, say, an F45 where it costs perhaps $50,000, but they give you everything that you need, right? They give you all the systems, like the programs and everything else.
Yeah, it's way different. Yeah.
Is there any lessons that we can take from...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, are there any lessons that we can take from the way CrossFit boxes are run and what CrossFit do as a company that any gym could perhaps take from that?
Yeah, I think...
We have community, of course.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see, the gyms that stuck around. And, when I sold it, it was in 2017. It was the best year at the gym. It was very healthy. But there's a lot of things. We made a lot of mistakes, right? We were paving new ground, really, trying things, failing, trying another. And so there's so much to learn by other people's failures, right? If you really want to take a look at it. I think the biggest thing and where the focus now resides is that client experience. I think that's the biggest thing that people have. people love their CrossFit classes. They love going to the same class that they always go to at noon or 5:30, seeing the same people, seeing the same coach. Everyone knows each other. And the ones that are successful are the ones that really invested in the relationships with the clients. And, that starts from the very, very first contact with a person, right? Is how are you making it a unique and great experience from the very, very first point of contact through maybe creating relationships with a coach, having people do a private, an on-ramping program that's more private training now than just throwing them in class and hoping for the best. And then focusing on retention. That was something that wasn't even in the conversation 5 years ago. We're like, retention, who cares? I got so many people come through my door, it doesn't matter. And I'm starting to see that too with some of the bigger chains or franchises that are growing. They're growing so fast, but no one's looking, what's going on the back door, right? What's the churn rate? Why are they leaving? What's going on the first 90 days? And I think that's something that people can learn from CrossFit is the great gyms, the ones that do really well, have their clients last for a very long time because they really focus on same thing you focus on, Jack, is a great client experience, building those relationships, and really knowing your clients. That's the biggest thing.
You mentioned that it's slowed down. What do you see the future of CrossFit being? Is it something that'll always be there?
I hope so. I do. I have doubts at times. I think, like you mentioned F45. They've taken a lot of things from many different organizations, including CrossFit, and they're doing a great job. They built a better mousetrap, better systems. They put some technology into it. They've made it more digestible to the masses. I think CrossFit, it's always going to be around. I think there's the hardcore people who will always love it, but I don't think they focus enough on business systems and supporting the affiliates on the ground level. And I think that inevitably is going to be a slow decline, but you never know. It can turn around, right? There's emerging markets like Asia, right? Like where you are. Maybe now, if someone took the reins new and really developed the system, supported affiliates in the right way, then it can thrive. But with what I see now and the gym owners that I work with now, they just need a lot of help. And, like I said, there's, since 2015, it's been kind of a slow, steady decline. So
I think I would say the same for Asia as well. Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, these things are typically going to work in some kind of cycles, right? It's hard for someone to dominate so strongly for decades in any industry, I think. And certainly fitness isn't any different. I think in Asia, we've seen the same. I think, 2012, 2013, we saw a few opening in Bangkok. I don't think one has opened for a while, and one or two have closed recently. I think that's the case in other sort of big markets here as well. So I think in some ways it's kind of mirrored the States, which actually kind of brings me on to my next question. So I think in Asia, you often see Western trends that usually start in LA or New York, slowly finding their way to Asia. So we're perhaps sort of 3, 4, 5 years behind. If you look at things like rhythm cycling, indoor cycling, or the Rumble sort of water bag boxing, it just takes a few years to get here. So with that in mind, is there anything that you see in the US which is kind of right at the cusp, sort of just about to happen or just starting, any trends kicking off that you think perhaps we might see in Asia sort of 2, 3 years down the line?
Yeah, I think, it's tough. I'm really big into technology too and where that's going. And I think the models that are embracing technology now are going to do a great job. I mean, we can come back. I spent about 48 hours with the people at F45 last week. I flew to LA and got to see how everything worked, what they're planning. It was very eye-opening. And that's going to be tough to beat, that model. I mean, they're just going to grow like wildfire. And I do believe they are. I think from the boutique gym model, I do think that the higher end you can go, right, in client experience and being, really devoted to that and pricing yourself accurately for that, I think that's going to be part of it. I think that, we're starting to see now that the average, classical like fitness trainer who, comes in, drinks their coffee, has their person doing the bicep curls while they're checking their text messages, right? That's not going to be around because there's, things like...
You think that would just become obsolete?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. There's things like Peloton, right? Or Tonal, TONAL is there on my podcast not too long ago. They just got a second round of funding. They're blowing up. right? It's like these home devices where, you can pay one lump fee and then you can do all the training and guidance you need from a virtual space. So, we're starting to see that differentiation between, if you're just kind of a commodity based fitness, right? Where you're just churning people in and, everything's a widget, then you're going to get pushed out. But if you're looking for but what we can't take away is the value of human relationships, right? You just can't. So if you're really investing in people, hey, you should know how someone's dog is doing, right? Or, how many kids they have. Hey, I heard Susie graduated from college, right? Congratulations. Or, hey, how's that bum knee? How you doing there, right? Hey, I thought you said you had a gluten allergy, right? What's going on there? I read this new article. I think you should read it, right? Like that really getting to know the clients, I think is a big part of it. It's hard to say, man. It really is, because I look at the way technology is coming into the business, and it can come from so many different ways, like, wearables, AI, VR, AR, 3D printing has a place, genetic testing, God, man, real-time biometrics, like all of this stuff that can come in. You don't know, it's all happening. You just don't know what's gonna explode. And
right. It's a really interesting space, I think. Who do you think is most vulnerable to this? I mean, we mentioned the sort of rep counting, personal trainers, they might get pushed out just by technology. But what can boutiques do? What can premium offerings do? Or say, even chain gyms, what can they do you think, to sort of somewhat protect themselves? Is it just throw themselves into tech as well? Or is it perhaps just more on that human relationship?
I think being aware of it and embracing it, anytime you see a wave of evolution, there's two people. There's people who resist it and get run over, right? And then there's people who embrace it and hopefully ride a wave. And, the thing is, you have to have the foresight. If I still own my gym, I'd be experimenting with a, some kind of VR setup where people can come in off hours and get a little workout in, right? Led by, maybe one of my instructors on demand, right? Or something like that. I'd be experimenting with that. I love that stuff. So maybe I'm not normal. I geek out on it harder than other people, but I'd be checking it out, right? I'd also be looking at all the solutions that you have to enhance the interactions with your clients. There's a lot of great services, namely NAAMLY or Coach AI, where it's all focused on how do we optimize the relationship between the client and the gym business or the trainer. How do we get access to them, the other 23 hours of the day? Maybe it's through SMS or, which is texting, or, various forms to do that. Texting seems to be the best because that's where you meet people where they are. But how do you do that, right? How do you use technology to increase the value of your interactions? I think that's where I would be looking at really quite a bit too. And therefore retention, that's the biggest thing is, everyone talks about lead generation, dude. Everybody, right? Like, how do I get more leads, right? But does anyone pay attention to, okay, what's your churn rate? How many people are going out the back door? Because it's expensive getting new clients. It's hard, right? But no one's looking at they call it the vanity metrics. Like, how many members do you have, right? How big is your gym? All that stuff doesn't matter. I would be looking at what's the average lifetime of your client? What's the average value of your clients, right? And what are you doing to increase those numbers? Because that's what builds a really, really strong business.
And not just in terms of, it's not just in terms of sort of, okay, we're losing these paying clients, but in terms of building the community that we've already talked about. If you have new people coming in, every other month, and it's just, this big churn, how do you expect to build any kind of viable community, right? If you can build a core of customers which stay with you for a long time, right, that is a huge part of what a community is. I mean, I talked about it in my last podcast, but what is community? I mean, it's a group of people who have shared values and share interests, and they spend time together. That is kind of what a community is. And I think if people are just coming and going, and that is also for staff as well. I think you need to look at retention of staff in terms of how you build a community. So I think it's absolutely true. I think ultimately you have to look, how many people are leaving and how many people are joining. And if it's the same amount, that's not very good,
Yeah, exactly.
Less people are leaving than are joining, then, over time you're going to build a successful business. And I think, if you have something strong and you're doing the right things, even if one person leaving is two people are joining, over 6 months, over a year, and over 2 years, you've got a strong, healthy, successful business. So I absolutely agree that you need to be looking at retention. Any other interesting examples of companies that are using technology? Any specific examples? You mentioned Peloton. Obviously, it's fascinating what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, one of the leaders in their space. Anything else that you see you're like, that is awesome?
Yeah. I think anything that enhances the actual experience within a gym. We talked about I talked to a lot of companies that are building really focusing on that first 90 days. That seems to be a very key number. I've talked to very large, franchise groups, and they're like, I would ask about retention, and the answer would always be something like, well, if they get past the first 90 days, they stay for, a year and a half.
Interesting.
Well, what about those 90 days? What's going on? It's this big question mark. Well, it's just the 90 days. Well, I think that if you can really focus on the first 90 days for so many reasons, because that is where relationships are built, and that's when behavioral change takes place. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do we're just trying to change behavior so that people habitually shift and start, living a healthier, more vibrant life. And that has to be done over time. But that first 90 days, man, there's a lot of technology that really helps with that, because it's tough. I mean, you're a gym owner. You don't, to keep track of it, especially as you grow, when you get to that 150 mark in clients at a boutique gym, it becomes very challenging to keep up with everything, right? So you have a couple options. You can embrace technology, right? Start using that. You can also start heavily leaning on your coaches and your staff to build those relationships with you, right? And then you also have to invest in the relationship between you and your staff. So, so if technology can help with that whole swirling situation, then that's the stuff I'm really interested in. And all the other stuff is great, but ultimately, for when it comes to gym owners and business owners at the ground floor, you got to be focusing on that first 90 days.
Okay, so tech can play a role in that. I think you can use things like email marketing as well to sort of help to reinforce that. Are there any other tips that are sort of non-tech related that you think gyms can do in that initial 90 days? Or let's call it the initial, 100 days, maybe that first little 10 days before they actually come, maybe after they put their first session, something like that. And then the first 90 days as an actual client.
Yeah, I think, if you can, depending on what different model you have, some different models will have an acceptable churn rate, right? You're like, well, that's okay. I don't mind losing 10% per month because I'm just going to keep people coming in, and my model is like that. But I do believe that having some sort of one-on-one series of interactions up front, maybe it's anywhere between 3 and 10 sessions, where they really start to form a relationship with somebody who's on your staff, you or your staff. I mean, ultimately, let's be real, is that for most of us as fitness professionals, going into a gym isn't a big deal, right? We've probably been doing it our whole lives. Maybe we look forward to it. For the large majority, the vast masses, it can be intimidating and scary, and it's a huge change in behavior, right? And we always look at what's the first thing that we always do when we get people we start writing a workout. Okay, you're going to do squats and push-ups and pull-ups, right? But is that if you were going to guarantee results for somebody, Jack, right? If someone came in and they said, if you follow my plan, I will guarantee results for you in 90 days. Guarantee it. The only thing that truly, to me, would do that is changing their nutrition. And why do we always start with workouts and then hope that we do nutrition later, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get to it when the time is right. Why don't we lead with the things that have the most significant change, which is, nutrition, habits, all of those things. So, really being upfront and honest with your clients up front, be like, hey, here's how we do things. Here's why we're different. We're not just going to throw you into a workout and hope for the best. We're here to make you, we're committed to a long-term shift in your health, and the way and being honest and authentic with that up front too. Mm-hmm. I've run my fair share of 6-week challenges, right, as a marketing tool. But I try my best to educate people up front, be like, hey, so this is your first step, right? And, transformation doesn't really happen over 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks for that matter, right? It happens over 6 to 12 to 18 months where people really start to change. So being authentic with your marketing message, because yeah, sure, Joe down the street is probably going to offer some cheap challenge, right? Maybe grab some potential clients of yours. But to be long-standing, you really have to be authentic and look at the long term for your clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we have very much the same approach with our 60-day challenges. We have a big kind of sessions, a kickoff, a kickstart seminar, we call it. And we say, look, this is the first step, guys. Yeah. Like, don't think after 60 days, that's it, job done. Just get on with your life and stop training and stop eating well. We really want this to be a kickstart to healthier habits. And I think by having that authentic message, you start to attract the kind of people that are actually going to hang around. Yeah. If you're like the 30-day 6-pack challenge, come in and get a 6-pack in 30 days, you're going to naturally attract the people that are looking for that quick fix, right?
Yeah.
So I think by sort of knowing what you stand for, by having values and communicating those well, you actually attract the kind of clients that are going to be good for your business and the ones that you want. And I would say the same for recruiting staff as well. If you have those strong values about who you want in your company, why you want them, and what you're all trying to do, I think again you're going to attract the right kind of people and repel the wrong people. So some great insights there. Thank you. Any other sort of common mistakes that you see gyms making, and anything that they can perhaps do to avoid those pitfalls?
Yeah, I think you touched on something really powerful, Jack, is that really understanding who your ideal client, who your ideal staff member is. And don't be afraid to say no to everybody else, right? There tends to be, especially if you're getting started, whether you're a trainer or a gym owner, is the scarcity mindset of like, I'm going to take anybody who walks in my door, right? And then what happens is like you're not serving somebody properly because you're trying to do too many things, you're spread too thin, and then people leave, they go out, they have a bad experience, they tell more people about it. I would say don't be scared to niche down, right? Really hone in on a specialty. I've seen a lot of people with great success serving people, just anyone over the age of 55. That's all they do, right? That's what their gym is focused on. It's focused on that experience. It really is advantageous from not only creating a specialized experience for the client, but also your marketing message, and referrals tend to pour in, right? And I think that's a big thing, even from, even if you're in a market where you're like, downtown New York, I'll just take everybody, right? I mean, you look at someone like a great example. This is a great example, is Mark Fisher, right? So Mark Fisher Fitness is probably one of the best community-based gyms I know of. But if you go look at his stuff, check out his YouTube channel, all these things, you'll see how committed he is to a specific demographic, right? It's all over the place. And you know what? They flock to him. They are loyal. He doesn't, his marketing is, I would imagine he doesn't have to do a whole lot, right? Although he's a master marketer. But he positioned himself so well, right? With a particular audience that was underserved. And I think that's a big thing, is don't be afraid to niche down and really focus on a specific market.
Do you think people are scared sometimes to do it?
Oh, for sure.
They feel, I'm shrinking my market here. If we just go for everyone, I'm bound to get 0.1% of the market. So the bigger the market, the more chance of success.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it is scary. I mean, if you think like, why would I say no to people? Why would I tell people this isn't the ideal fit? Why would I send someone down the street, right? When I know I can help them. And that's, from you see that a lot with young trainers. They're like, well, I can help everybody. Okay, well, you're going to end up helping nobody, right? And, so really carve that out. And I think that can be done at any level. I think, I can give you a lot of different examples of Robert Linkle out of Sacramento, California, who just deals with that over 55, Curtis Jackson out of San Diego, who just deals with, teenage athletes, right? Just find, who you work well with. But in that beginning point, I don't want to dissuade anybody. At that beginning point, you have to work with a wide variety of people, right? You have to see who you like working with, who resonates with you, right? You have to go through that. And then after that, then you know exactly who you're looking for, and you can really change your whole business to go after them.
I think, like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. The true test of whether you've got there or not is if you're happy to send someone down the road.
Yeah.
They come to you and you're like, we're not quite the gym for you. these people are, this is how to find them and send them out the door. That's the true test of like, you have got there, you know what your niche is, and you know this person isn't right for you. And I think people will respect that. And I think, when you get to that place, I think, good things will come. But it's a process, as you said. And it's interesting you should mention coaches. I was going to touch on that as well when you started talking about niching down, as we call it in the UK. I think niche in America, we call it niche.
Yeah.
We talk to coaches about at the very beginning of their careers. I said, look, don't worry about it now, but start to think about the people that you want to work with, the people that you can help the most. Because sometimes when we first opened up, we asked our coaches for their sort of areas of speciality. We're creating their profiles, and some have like 10 areas of speciality. And I was like, yeah, we need to bring that down a little bit. Even one is good. We can all help with weight loss. We can all help you get stronger. Like, most personal trainers can do that. But, what specifically do you want to work with? Yeah, is it female clients? Is it younger athletes? Is it people who are very overweight? Is it sports performance? Like, try and really think about the kind of people that you want to work with, and they will inevitably come to you. So I think, some strong messages there. Any other kind of final tips for studio owners that you can think of? I mean, you just work with so many. It's always great to speak to sort of consultants and mentors because you get this deep insight into what's going on. Is there anything else you're like, I think all trainers should remember this?
Yeah, I think I would just really, once again, emphasize, double down on relationships, right? In every aspect, really invest in your staff, really invest in their future, and that'll pay off for you. I can say that from both when that worked for me and when I didn't do it. Maybe I chose the wrong, and it hurt. Right? Financially, emotionally, all those different ways. But when I got it right, it was amazing. Right. And that just understand that things don't happen overnight. Right. It's, there's a lot of predatory business coaches out there who will promise you, amazing results in 90 days. Right. Like, hey, we'll get you to 6 figures in 90 days. Right. And, I can tell you right now, business just doesn't work like that. Sure, you can come up, be like, you can tell me a story about a unicorn, right? Where, this magical thing happened. You could probably even say it about CrossFit in 2012, right? When it just kind of blew up for us. But for most people, that's not going to take place. And, getting in really good business habits, changing your relationship with failure, understanding that a short-term failure is not a total collapse. It's just a learning experience, and you will survive as long as you learn. And that's the biggest thing is really shifting the mindset of a fitness entrepreneur into understanding the long game, planting the seeds that will bear fruit later. But you got to do it, and you got to get in good business habits. Just like the parallels to fitness and business are almost laughably obvious. Right.
Right.
Like, hey, you got to have good fitness habits. You got to, drink your water, right? You got to do your mobility. You got to, move every day. Same with business is you got to be both, taking care of your current clients. You got to be out there escalating people through your funnel. And you got to be taking care of your staff. If you're looking at those things, then on a daily, if not weekly basis, you're going to be successful. You just will. It may take longer for some than others.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. I mean, how ironic is it that we're telling clients, you can't get results in 60 days, guys. This needs to be a lifetime thing. Like, give me a year and then I'll get your results. And then you're like, I want to turn my business around and make 6 figures in 30 days. It's like the irony is there staring you in the face right there. There are so many parallels. You're absolutely right. So I usually end our podcasts with predictions for the next 3 years in the Asian market. So obviously, you're in the US. I'd be interested to hear your predictions for the next 3 years there. And then perhaps 4, 5, 6 years down the line, we might see them in Asia. So what do you see happening in the next 3 years?
3 years, I think that we'll continue to see rapid growth for organizations like F45, SoulCycle, Orange Theory. The franchise model will continue to grow. Barry's Bootcamp, you name it, there's a bunch of them. I think you will start to see the relationship, the technology of relationships will really start to push forward greatly. 3 years, I don't know how much is truly going to change, but I do think, I think those big franchises are just on too strong of a trajectory, right? They're just going to be everywhere. And it's not a bad thing. I always talk, like, on average, you see, and this is a gracious percentage, but at least here in the States or North America, is that I would say no more than 20% of the population has a gym membership or a personal trainer. So what about the 80%? Right? That's where the huge opportunity is. How do we get into people's homes? Maybe it's through corporate wellness, right? I think that's a huge market it already is. It's like a $4 billion market, right? So corporate wellness, I think opportunities for gyms to get into settings like hotels, I think is a big market potentially. And then anything that's on demand, kind of on demand experience for training. So yeah, it's exciting, man. It's a really exciting time to be in the industry. It's so young, right? The industry is really young. It's only about 50 years old. And now we're starting to see people are like, oh, wow, you can actually, the top, 2-3% are actually making a ton of money, which is good. Yeah, we want fitness professionals to make money. More of them, a lot of them don't. Really interesting to hear your thoughts. I absolutely agree. I mean, 8 years into my career and I'm just so excited for where it's going. I really can't wait to see where it goes. And, you talk about 80% of people not having a gym membership. Well, in Thailand, that's 99% of people. In Singapore, it's 94%. And in Indonesia, 0.1% have a gym membership. So 99.9% do not have a gym membership. So I was speaking to a gym operator there, and he is just so pumped and so excited for what can happen in the next sort of 5, 10, 20 years there. So yeah, certainly a very interesting and exciting time. Finally, Eric, where can we find out more about you? How do we contact you? And maybe just tell us a little bit about your 2 podcasts as well. Yeah. So there's so many different places to find me. I think honestly, the best place is probably Facebook. I know that seems like, I'm 42. So people are like, oh, of course he does Facebook. Why aren't you on Instagram? Well, I am, but I just spend most of my time on Facebook. And, between, you can check out if you're someone who would be interested in having your own, accredited online certification, we're at certifiedcoursecreation.com. My podcasts are The Future of Fitness and Fitness Blitz Radio. And you can find a lot of my content on fitnessprofessionalonline.com. And then eventually in the next few months, we'll have our website out for level 5 mentors. So got a few things going on.
That's awesome, Eric. I will leave all of those links in the show notes. So if anyone wishes to reach out and connect, they can do so easily. Thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure to connect with you, Eric, and to chat with you over the last few weeks as we've done so. Hope to connect with you in person at some point. I will let you know if I'm coming to the US. And please do the same if you're here in Asia.
That'd be a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jack.
Okay, awesome. Take care, Eric. Thank you.
Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. It's your host, Eric Malzone, and I have a quick favor to ask. Actually, 3 favors. So, number 1, if you're a fan of our show, I ask you to do something that takes under 3 minutes. Go to iTunes, please, and subscribe to our show. Please, please, please. It means so much to us. It's so important. And then give us a favorable review. We would really, really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much it means and helps us out. So I know it takes 2 minutes of your day, and it means a lot to us. So please do that. Number 2, go to our YouTube channel, our Fitness Marketing Alliance, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Number 3, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've released, share it on social. That's huge. That's a big deal for us. And we put a lot of work into these episodes, trying to give you great, actionable content for the fitness industry. So that would mean a lot. And that's it. So we have some big plans coming up for this show. I'll be talking about that in the next couple episodes. But thank you so much for listening. It means so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I love to hear from everybody. Eric, ERIC at fitnessmarketingalliance.com.